Good evening. My name's Derek Jackson, and I'm a landless peasant. In fact, you're all landless peasants as well, unless you're one of the 6,000 people that own 70% of our nation. That's half of 1% of the population own this nation. We are their livestock, almost their pets. We are their economic units. Slaves, in fact, the definition of slavery being a system of forced labour. It's the view of landless peasants, who I represent, that unless we have the right to access to land, to look after ourselves, provide for ourselves, and sustain our own lives, then we are slaves. No more and no less. Unlike the rest of the people here this evening, I'm not campaigning to tell you that our party can look after you and your lives. I'm campaigning for the right for all of you to look after yourselves, to have as small a government as possible, and to be self-reliant as far as is practical.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
In large part, this election is being fought for you to choose which of the main parties will write the very large cheques to the people we owe the money to. Who do we owe the money to? Does anybody know who we owe the money to? That huge debt, that debt so large your children and probably your children's children will be in hock to a bunch of bankers who were so rubbish at business they couldn't bank properly. That's what this election is being fought for. We're going to choose who's going to sign those big cheques, who's going to adjust our poverty, who's going to cut our services. Because now, there's no choice. We've got to pay those people. We owe them the money. We blew it. And now all we've got left is the bill. And you people are going to decide who pays it.
I've been Labour all my life, but now I'm a pensioner. How is it the Labour is saying they're looking after the pensioners when they put a 10% tax to 20%? Also, this year alone, the people that's worked in the National Health Service all their life, their pensions are frozen. No right.
Okay, yeah.
100 years of the Labour Party, representing the poor mass of this country, the 90% of people, the 10% wealthy get their money from. What did you get? A longer tea break. Paid holidays. Your children don't go down the pit anymore, but you're still slaves. 100 years of Labour, 100 years of the unelected House of Lords. They're traitors. Orwell would love this, wouldn't he? None of us can remember why we're in Afghanistan. We were told they wouldn't give us Osama bin Laden. That's what we were told. They had Osama bin Laden, they wouldn't give him to us, so we invaded their country and killed tens of thousands of innocent people. Now we're told the only place on earth you can imagine being a terrorist is the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. It's the only place on earth you can imagine making bombs. It's absurd. The biggest business on earth is the arms trade. You think they go to work in the morning thinking about how to break out peace? Or do you think they go to work in the morning thinking about how to sell more weapons? I think it's the latter. I agree with Donald. We need to set an example. And so I propose we remove the unelected bishops from the unelected House of Lords and then say to other governments around the world, you shouldn't have religion in your government. It's wrong. Government should represent the needs of the people and not adhere itself to one particular religious belief. And I believe the American founding fathers.
In the event of being elected, what foreign policy proposals would each candidate put before Parliament to discourage China from providing weapons and finance to the Burmese military rulers who currently use these to suppress democracy and massacre their opponents? And what efforts would they make to engage in meaningful dialogue with the generals in Myanmar?
1 billion economic slaves under a tyranny Hitler could never have dreamed of. A vast amount of resources and an iron fist in dealing with its population. And we buy all of our stuff from them. Your mobile phones, your televisions, soon your cars. In fact, the more stuff that comes from China, the better for our economy. We'll all be better off when the stuff from China is cheaper and their labour force are working with less rights than we ever had.
Thank you. That's all right.
Okay, I don't know why you should trust me or anybody else by taking their word for it. You should find out for yourselves what's going on. You should find out how these people vote, what they want, and who they're really working for in the register of members' interests. Don't take my word for it. Almost all of them are in hock to some business. And they're only interested in you when it's time to vote.
Okay. Thank you, Susan.
This is an election communication on behalf of the Landless Peasant Party. Vote for Derek Jackson because land is power and you don't have any. We are landless peasants in our own nation, our own country, our own land. We do not own our nation, nor is it held for our benefit nor on our behalf. 6,000 people own 70% of our nation, and from the day we are born, we are peasants, with no right to the very essence of our country, the land. Yet we will work, pay tax, fight, and die to defend it. We are liable for the debts of our nation. We are the people business extracts its profits from. We are the landless peasants of this nation, living in 24 million homes on 7% of the land, like livestock. We might as well be their pets. Unable to live by our own means, we have no choice but to take part in economic slavery. Land is power. Landlessness is slavery. Our lives have been reduced to a collection of utility bills and what we do to earn money to pay them.
Even though you have a television bigger than your living room, you're still a landless peasant in your own land. 6,000 people own most of this country, and you're not one of them. I can tell that by the way you're all crammed in together in this little ghetto, this posh little ghetto. You're just chickens, cooped up, economic units, economic slaves for the few wealthy families who own this nation and for who we all work. That's right, we work. We pay taxes, we pay off the debts, and we die for this country which we do not even own. We might as well be the livestock of a few wealthy people. You're being bled dry. Your lives are nothing but work, tax, and exploitation. You are landless peasants in your own land. Landless peasants with no right to the very essence of this nation. No right to the one thing that humans need to live on, land. Vote landless peasant, because you don't have any. And without land, you're just a slave. Even if you have got a television bigger than your living room, even if you owe the bank vast amounts of money for your little hut, you're still a peasant, a landless peasant, grafting away for your owners who are laughing in your face. Who do we owe all the money to? Who do we owe the money to? We owe the money to the same people who own us. They're laughing at you, and your debts, and your taxes, and they're going to go on laughing at you as long as you're landless peasants.